Hi all crochet lovers. Today I'm showing a stitch that you can use to fill your motifs. Start with a chain of 25. This is going to give you 3 repeats of the pattern. So you will need to have a chain of 9 for the beginning, and then you'll have multiple of 8 chains. For row 1, make a chain of 3. In the 4th stitch, do 2 double crochets without pulling through. That's the first double crochet. And that's the second double crochet. Now pull through and make a chain of 1. This is your first petal. Skip 7 stitches. In the 8th stitch, do 2 double crochets without pulling through. This is going to be your second petal. Each of the flower will have 4 petals. That's the second double crochet. Now pull through and make a chain of 3. Slip this chain into the same stitch. Those are 2 petals. Chain of 9. Skip 7 stitches and slip into the 8th stitch. Now we'll make the petals again. For that, make a chain of 3. In the same stitch, do 2 double crochets without pulling through. Call this as petal 1. Now pull through and make a chain of 1. So we completed petal 1. Now skip 7 stitches, and in the 8th stitch, which is the last stitch here, do 2 double crochets without pulling through. Now pull through and make a chain of 3 and slip it into the same stitch. Now this is the petal 2 of our flower. To end this row, make a chain of 6. This is for the height for this and the next row. For row 2, go into the center of the petals where we made a chain of 1. We are going to make petal 3 now. Do 2 double crochets in that stitch, in the same stitch, which is the center of these 2 petals. And these double crochets will again not pull through. Now we are going to pull through and make a chain of 3 and slip it into the same center stitch. Now we are making the 4th petal. For that, make a chain of 3, and in the same stitch we'll make 2 double crochets without pulling through. Now pull through and make a chain of 3. Skip 2 stitches here. This was the chain of 9 which we made in the previous row. In the 3rd stitch, do a full double crochet without holding any loops on the hook. Chain of 3. Skip 3, and in the 4th stitch, do another double crochet. and pull through all the loops. Now this is the box which is coming in between the flowers. Make a chain of 3 and go into the center of these 2 petals and make your petal number 3 by doing 2 double crochets without pulling through. Pull through, make a chain of 3 and slip into the center of the petals. For the last petal, make a chain of 3. In the same center stitch, do 2 more double crochets without pulling through. Now pull through, chain 1, yarn over 5 times. In the last stitch, which is the end of the petal 2, crochet these loops by pulling through one by one. In case you people are wondering why I have spots on my fingers, these are actually the marks from henna that I put on my friends who wanted to celebrate Eid recently. Eid Mubarak to all of you too. Row 3, make a chain of 9. Now we are going to have the square on top of the flower because we are going to alter the position of the flowers every time. So we're making chain 9. Slip this into the stitch at the end of the petal 4. Now here we have the square. Now we are going to make the flower here. For that, make a chain of 3. Go into the same stitch and do 2 double crochets without pulling through. This stitch is actually placed at the end of the petal 4. Now pull through, chain 1 and go into the end of petal 3 of the next flower. In this stitch, do 2 double crochets without pulling through. Pull through and make a chain of 3. Each petal has 3 bars, and out of these 3 bars, 2 bars are double crochets and 1 bar is made of a chain of 3. Slip it into the same stitch and make a chain of 9. And slip it into the end of petal 4. Now for row 4, make a chain of 8. Out of this chain of 8, chain of 6 is for the height and chain of 2 is for making the square. Skip 2 stitches in this chain of 9 from the previous row. In the third stitch, do double crochet, a full double crochet, a chain of 3, skip 3, a full double crochet, make a chain of 2. You would have noticed that in row number 2 I made a chain of 3 after the squares, but now I'm making chain of 2. You can vary the length of the chain, that is whether you want to make a chain of 9 or a chain of 7, or you want to make a chain of 3 while making the squares. This you can vary based on the type of yarn that you have chosen to make this stitch. Because this is more suitable to make a crochet frill, if you have a little puffy yarn and if you have long chains of 9 or a chain of 3s for making the squares, then the squares will not be placed exactly in the middle of the flowers. So that's the reason why I wanted to show this variation where you can change the number of chains you choose to make while making the rectangles. So instead of making a chain of 9 for the base of the square, you can make a chain of 7. And instead of making chain of 3 here for completing the square, you can make a chain of 2. Now this row is exactly similar to row 2, so I haven't explained this again. We are ending it with a bar with 5 yarn overs again. So that completes the flowers. So as I was explaining, it is important for you to have the rectangles or the squares in the center of the flowers so that the frill looks beautiful. I tried to make a motif in the pattern of a mango leaf. For that I made a big chain and slipped it into the end after leaving a few stitches so that it takes the shape of a mango leaf, and then I did double crochets throughout and added some picots. This was just for the purpose of demonstration. Then I included the crochet frill in this motif, and this is how it looks. I think it came out well in the end finally. Thank you for watching.